doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna be sad.
You're alone again. I shouldn't be thinking of you, thinking of me. I know you're not.
Hello, everyone. This is Mike, and this is the Daily Bread Podcast, the weekly podcast where I sit in my living room by myself and I talk to air. This week, I'm going to give advice to people going through Christmas or going through a divorce, and this is their first Christmas without their significant other. This kind of just came to me because basically every time before I hit record, I just try to think of like something that I'm going to talk about. And I kind of thought about how this is the week of Christmas and the next week's New Year's. So I figured maybe I'll just make this topical and hopefully this will be helpful to people. The only way I think I can give tips, I guess, I'm not going to be like, this is the top 10 things to do, because the number one thing it's going to be is a shitty fucking Christmas, which you've probably already guessed right now since this is the week of, and this is strictly focused on people who are just going through a divorce this year, and either they could have gotten separated on January 1st of this year and or December 26th of last year, and this will be the first Christmas. So this is like dedicated to the people that this is the first Christmas by yourself. And I'll talk about the story that, or talk about what I did on my Christmas. So I don't know if any of this is going to be helpful, but you're the audience that I wanted to focus on and talk to, because it kind of seems to be the core of everything that I do, from like drawing the comic is about my life, and the core of that is from getting divorced 6 years ago. And so leading up to the first Christmas, the funny thing is that the previous year was obviously our final Christmas, and this happened. So my dad died in 2013, and 3 months. So then after that was the first Christmas. So that first Christmas was dealing with the fact that he was gone. So that was a giant kick to the balls. Sorry, I just got out of the gym, so I'm very out of breath right now. And so that was hard enough. And so I remember that Christmas Day with my wife at the time, we ended up, like, this was like kind of the point where I saw things, if I could look back and see where things started to flip, or where it was really in front of my face, I didn't recognize it, is that she got me this gratitude journal, which she was working in or writing in. It's called the 5-Minute Journal, and I highly suggest you buy it if you're looking for something to do to start kind of kickstarting going in the direction of being happier. And what it is you get up in the morning and you write 3 things you're grateful for, 2 things that'll make the day great, or 3 things that'll happen will make the day great, and like in a statement of I am. And it's really helpful, so you should go check that out. Just Google it. She got me that. She got a jar that we were going to put notes in every day of what we were grateful for. And she got me like, I don't know, I forget what the gift she got me, but what I found out later on, with a month later, when she, like, literally almost like it's like a month and 2 days later, she bailed, and it was almost like she was setting me up to mentally prepare myself and get in a happier place so she could bounce, which also made sense because we did 2 weeks of therapy before she left, and she told me that after the second session. So the night of the second session is where she told me she was leaving me, and she basically told me, like, oh, I was doing therapy because I wanted to set you up so when I leave, you'd be in a good place. So maybe for you, if you look back to last year or right before you got divorced, because this is also focused on people who someone left them. Not if you're the person that left someone, then fuck you. This episode isn't for you, and you can go get fucked. But if you're the person who was, someone did leave you, then I'm talking to you, because this is very painful. And the people who leave someone, now granted, if you left someone who was beating you or was like a real shitty person, then I'll take back the fuck you statement. But if you left your partner for somebody else, then fuck you. Then you're a giant piece of shit. And get fucked. Which there might be people who listen to this who did that, and sorry, but which is actually it's funny because I have met people through the years and they did leave somebody, and it was funny. I did find forgiveness in that person. It wasn't my forgiveness to give, but it's my first reaction to say. So I think that people leave leave their person for someone else. I think you're shitty because that's what happened to me. That's why I'm lashing out. It's like I'm doing a therapy session myself even after saying that. Anyway, if you're a person if you're the person who got dumped, let's say, then you could probably look back and there's little breadcrumbs along the way that you're gonna go, oh yeah, that was right. So that happened in January where she left, and then I had that whole year to soak everything up. And along the way, there was Valentine's Day, which we never really were a big Valentine's Day fan, but when everyone around you is posting shit about love, you're like, ugh, get fucked. And then there was Easter, where we just get together and have like dinner. Like I don't go to church anymore, and my mom, it's so funny, she hasn't been to church in forever, but if I say anything about like religion, she gets all up in arms. And I'm like, you haven't been to church. You haven't even stepped in a fucking church since like people have died. So there's that. And so there was Easter dinner with the family. I think that was awful, miserable, horrendous, painful. So that sucked. And then my birthday came up, and I forget what I did. And then there's like Memorial Day weekend. I went to where this campground with my friends that used to go to every year with her, and she was good friends with them, but I was the one invited and she wasn't because she left like everyone behind when she went with the guy that she left me for. And so then that was interesting, doing that alone. And then there was 4th of July, which is, again, it's like these are like big holidays and little tiny holidays, but it's just a holiday in general just brings up we did things together with friends or with family. So then September rolls around, and I finally started kind of getting my groove back on and got back in the dating scene. Let's just put it that way. And so that kind of, I started talking more to the ladies again, and that kind of helps your ego, basically. Like, you have something to focus on. You also don't think that you're worthless because people are actually paying attention to you, so that helps. And then Christmas Day came, and leading up to it, I was still living in the same apartment that we moved in together. We got engaged prior to living there, but we were engaged. We moved in this place. We got married, and not in this place, but it was the time we got married, we were living there. That was also the place where she told me she was leaving. And it was just really dark. It was just like dark fucking times because you'd walk in and you'd see everything you saw reminded you of that person. So tip number 1, if you are at your place and they left and you're seeing things that remind you of them, obviously the paint on the walls and shit like that, that's not, and furniture or like, certain things that are bolted into the walls or the ground, whatever, like can't really do much about that. And this is also, when this episode comes out, you're going to have about 3 days to do something. So if you can, I would get rid of every fucking thing in there that's theirs, or put it in a box and just maybe go give it to a Salvation Army or throw it away or punch it with tools. Smash it with, just take tools and punch things with them. Break things that are theirs. Like kind of like help relieve this stress. So tip 1, if you are in the place that you were together and they are gone and you're still there, try to do as much as possible in the next couple of days to alleviate that. I should have put this episode out about a month ago. It probably would have been more beneficial to you right now. But there's that. And because I remember that I didn't really decorate. That was the first year that I stopped buying a tree, which kind of breaks my heart because we used to go get a real tree, but I used to love having a tree. But I did put Christmas lights up, and that was something. And then Christmas morning, I remember waking up, and it was just like so awful because you're in your bed where you slept with this person for however long, which for me at that point was, we were together for 6 years, almost 6 years actually. And so like, this is like the most non-helpful episode for anyone listening, but maybe you can, I think relating to what you're going through is going to be the helpful thing here, because it's like someone's going to understand how painful this is, and that's something in that is helpful. So hopefully this is doing that. So like waking up in the morning sucked because the world around you, in theory, is happy. Not the world, the Christmas world, with families and that are together and people that are happy that are together. Now there's the world outside of that where they're either, you're living in a war-torn country, or if you don't celebrate Christmas and you don't give a shit about it, there's just, well, that just doesn't matter. And if you're a homeless person, that holiday probably sucks unless you're really happy being homeless and you're in a warm place, or you just found solace in just not having bills and responsibility. So there's that. But I'm just going from the viewpoint that I had. So I woke up very miserable, and I don't remember if I think I just made plans to go to my mom's house. So tip number 2, do not spend that day alone. It doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna be sad. But being sad by yourself sucks worse. But being sad with family can be helpful. Or with friends. I would think that spending it with friends is better, because family, it's just like an extra element of emotion that's added to it. And especially if your routine was to go there with that family together, and now you're there, and it's going to be very obvious that you're sitting by yourself, or you're sitting at the dinner table and the people on either side of you are not them, your ex-significant other. So that's painful. So if you have a chance to go hang out with friends that you haven't hung out with before on this holiday, then do that, because that is way better. So then that, as Christmas progressed, I went to, so in the morning, I forget what I did, but I eventually went to my mom's, and it was miserable, and it was just like me, my mom, my stepdad, and my stepbrother, and I just fucking hated it. So the third thing that helped me was right about that time, where kind of going back to say I got back in the dating game, is I luckily started to talk to someone, and that person lived close by. And I texted them and said, "What are you up to tonight?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm with family." And I said, "Well, I was supposed to stay over my mom's house that night, and it was about 30 minutes away." And I said, "Well, I am going to come home tonight. You should come over and we should drink wine." And that person said, "Yes, that sounds like a great idea." So I had that. So tip number 3, if you have someone that you have been hooking up with, or had hooked up with, or have the potential to hook up with, and there's no emotional tie, then I highly suggest that you set that up. And this isn't, I'm not trying to talk poorly about the person that came over that night. They're great. That helped me, because I had someone to talk to that was just someone new that hadn't been involved in our life really. Like, they kind of, here and there they knew each other just like through living close by and parties that we'd gone to, but that was helpful because it wasn't familiar from the previous year. And so like being at my mom's, I was like, hey, I'm going to go back home because this is just too much. So if you have a chance to go back to your place or that person's place, which might even be better, then if you could set that up, then do that. This is definitely, as I'm like thinking back to the 3 tips I've given so far, this is like the funniest shit, but it's true. This is like what helped me. So I ended up going home that night. That person came over, we hung out, and it was cool because I was in my place, and I think that her being there it helped dismiss that I was in my apartment. Because if I was in my apartment alone, I would have been miserable. I would have just looked at everything. I would have just gotten really drunk. I would have fucking bawled my eyes out, and it would have been really shitty. So having her there was great because we were just in conversation. So I didn't have it was a distraction, and not to say that in a negative way. It was helpful to have something new to learn about and talk about and all that stuff. And then obviously everything that happened afterwards was fantastic as well. So that was cool. And that helped just completely redirect my mindset as much as possible. So that stuff is helpful. This is obviously not a pep talk that I would give to like a young child. So there's that. And now to kind of fast forward to the other Christmases, I've been in North Carolina. The last episode I talked about how this Christmas I'm going to be alone. I totally lucked out because 2 friends are staying in town and they invited me over, and it's like a goddamn blessing because there are 2 people I just love to death, and they are typically going to hang out with their families, but obviously this year that's not going to happen because fucking pandemic's going on, and I chose not to go to my mom's house because of this pandemic. And which is interesting because last week there was a bit of a scare. Someone I know ended up getting the vid, and that was scary. So I was like, yeah, it's too close to home. It's too close to comfort to have gone down to my mom's house, she's 68, and she had like a mini stroke back in February, and so I don't really want her getting this at all, obviously. So this Christmas will be cool because I'm so far removed from my first one being divorced, and time does heal, and everyone's gonna fucking tell you that, and everyone who hasn't gone through this can get fucked. But since I've gone through it and I'm saying it, you can also think you should go get fucked. But I am hopefully some kind of like, I don't know what the hell, a beacon or hope that, because when this thing happened, I thought I was in the best relationship, and I thought I'd never be happy again, and I just thought I'd be just I thought I was going to live in that state for my rest of my life, and it took a while. And that's the only thing that's going to suck, and I'm going to be honest with you, that you're going to sit with this, especially if you really cared about the person who left you. It's going to suck. If it doesn't suck and you automatically meet someone else and fall in love with them and move on, then it really wasn't the right relationship for you to begin with, and you're going to be able to get over it, or you probably weren't that connected to that person. It's more like your ego is hurt because someone left you, which usually I think is the case for the majority of all this shit. But so this it was 2014. This is the 7th Christmas? Shit. No. Yeah. This will be no, it's 2020. This is the 6th Christmas. Wow, I'm good at math. This will be the 6th Christmas I've spent alone. Well, a couple years ago I was dating someone, but I ended up going to Massachusetts and spending that with family. That was cool. But then I started taking panic attacks when I was driving, so that wasn't that cool. Or prior to that, I was getting panic attacks. But yeah, so last year I was by myself, and that sucked. I ended up going to see a friend at the bar that night. And that's like another thing you could do. So tip number 4 is meet a friend at a bar. This year, obviously, depending on where you live, that's going to be kind of difficult. But in Raleigh, you can still go to restaurants and sit distanced and stuff. So everything's open. Go do that. Like plan on at some point that day to go out. Another thing that helped or can help is I live in a city, and I just went on a really long, like a 2-hour walk as well last year. So that was helpful. I was going to go and do like a staycation and go like maybe an hour away or 40 minutes away and stay at a hotel that had a bar that was open or a restaurant. Obviously this year, I'm trying to give advice for this year. If there are hotels that are open and they do have a restaurant, so maybe call around and find one, then you can, at least the environment will be different, and you can just not drive too far away and then have that. I wish this was last year. Last year meant that we would have been going into a pandemic, but I wish this was a year where there was no pandemic and you had options. But you got to deal with what you got. I would also recommend on the morning of, like, just surround yourself with shit to do. If you have, I mean, last year I think as well, I woke up and bought like a new video game and played that, or I bought some kind of breakfast thing to make, and it really doesn't, nothing is going to be a home run or this magical fix for you. But if you're just going to, either way, this thing's going to be on your shoulders. So try to do as much shit as possible to just distract yourself. So we rewind. 1, get rid of everything in your place now that reminds you of the person, as much as you can. 2, what was the second one? Go and see family, but try to be with friends if possible. 3, find someone to hook up with. I forgot what 4 was. What was 4? Do something. Yeah, go to a bar or something, a restaurant. So hopefully this is helpful. I don't think it really is, but something in this, I don't think all this advice would be 100% helpful to somebody. I think there's something in something I said, or just the fact, again, that I can relate to how shitty this is going to be. But if you stay home and you get drunk and you're looking at everything that reminds you of them and you don't have anything to distract you, it's going to just be, it's like your every day has been shitty, but like times fucking 10. Because it's a holiday that you've spent with them or was happy before. And it's just going to fucking blow. So just find as much distraction as possible. And you could Google what to do. It's like when you Google, if you're trying to cut down on drinking, the activities they give you are so stupid. It's like, count to 1,000,000, eat lots of apples. Yeah, it's like, it just reminds me, I mean, that's not exactly what I've read, but that stupid shit is what reminds me of the things that people suggest. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're trying to tell me that this is going to completely replace the feeling that I have of going to hang out outside of my place, around people, drinking bourbon, and you're telling me to like write in a journal for fucking 5 hours? Like, no, that's not really gonna work too well for me anyway. Some other people might be like, that sounds fantastic. But so hopefully this will be somewhat of an okay Christmas if you take the amazing advice I just gave you. And if this advice sucks, just keep looking for something until something clicks, and because that's what you're going to need. But just know that next year will be a little better, just a tiny bit, and then each year after that will be just a little bit better. But you're going to have to do something drastic. I think what I did after that Christmas is that was the kind of the pinnacle moment of me needing to upend everything. And I think about 2 months after that Christmas, almost to the day, I had sold almost all my stuff, and I cut my lease at the place we were living in, and I just traveled the country. Now that is an extremely different or an extreme thing to do, depending on who it is. It was extreme, but when I was doing it, it was definitely fulfilling. But I just took with me how mad I was, and which I've talked about many, many times in these podcast episodes. But if this Christmas sucks and you are living at your place, then number one, like after this Christmas, yeah, like get the fuck out of your place as soon as you can, and then find something drastic to do, like something healthy, drastic, and just like upend your shit, man. Like if you told me on that Christmas day that I was going to do what I did 2 months and said, hey man, in 2 months you're going to be, or 2.5 months, you're going to be on the road driving to Austin, Texas you're going to plan to be in Austin by April because you're going to have no place to live and all your stuff that you kept is going to be packed in your car. I would have been like, you're out of your fucking mind. But it happened. So maybe think about some crazy shit that you can do. And so maybe also tip 5 would help with me because I wanted to go in that direction. Think about the thing that would be the most drastic thing you can do, which has popped into your head a few times this year. And if you can't shake that, then dig deep in that and like kind of live in that for a second in your brain as if you were to take the steps and make that happen. And to go along with this is that I did know that I wanted to travel. I wanted to travel. So it's not like I just decided in February, like, oh, this is a brand new idea. Like I had the idea the April before that, almost a year prior to me doing it. But it was such an aha moment, and I kept pushing it off, pushing up, and it kept creeping in. And then I would go and find movies to watch about people who actually did that. And I'd read books about people who did that. So if you have something that's been creeping in, maybe spend Christmas and rent a movie that it tells a story about someone doing that thing that you want to do. Or get an audiobook by someone who did that thing. People who do things are just people. They're not extraordinary. They're just someone who just said, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. I don't know where this is going to lead. I'm just going to do it. Like, just because you haven't done that, just because you're an ordinary person and you haven't written a novel about this adventure you took or adventures you've taken, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Like, nobody is born with, you are going to show up as this person. People just decide to do that stuff. And, like, that's the giant gap between you and them and you. They just decided to do that one thing. Are you going to go and do the same thing that they did? No. You have to find your own shit, or you can match somewhat of a similar path. But it's like you got between now and the time you die. And who knows when that's going to be. So you're going to have a shitty Christmas. And if you want to keep having shitty Christmases after this, then stick with what you're doing. If you want to change that shit, you got to make some small steps. You got to make some giant fucking steps. And I don't know what that looks like, but I chose mine. And even now, after doing it, I'm back to a spot where I'm thinking I need to do maybe something else, or maybe I'm just complacent. I don't know. But just because you do it one time doesn't mean that that's it for life. Like, you're always going to eventually challenge yourself again. But imagine yourself on Christmas Day, if you're bummed out as fuck, you're going to keep going through more holidays. Like, the next one coming up is going to be Valentine's Day, which is another kick in the dick. And then you got St. Patty's Day. And then if you do Easter, you got that. There's probably other holidays in there too that I have never celebrated. So you could be someone who celebrates them. I'm just doing like the Hallmark holidays here. They're going to come up again, and you got to show up to them again. Or this might be the first time you're going through all them too. So this should be a great time to start figuring out how the fuck you're going to be happy again. And I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm doing I'm doing 52, or what the fuck am I doing? 52 weeks. So I am going to do an episode next week. Maybe that'll be like a New Year's one, and kind of talk about what I'm doing for New Year's, or the new year. So, all right, go hopefully try to have the best day possible as much as you can.